Road. It is the path open for the traffic of land transport means, traction means, pedestrians and animals. Whether the path is of public roads, sidewalks, wharfs, and yards or other places available for people to use. Road lane. It is any part of the longitudinal parts to which the carriageway is divided. Carriageway. It is the section of the road used usually for motion of vehicles. It consists of one or more lanes in the traffic direction. Carriageways are separated by different methods. Traffic direction. It is the direction of traffic in the right side of the road, and it consists of one or more lanes, either in one or two directions. Shoulder of the road. It is a part of the road in line with it from the two sides and is prepared for emergency stopping of vehicles. Types of roads. Roads with one lane or more in one direction. Traffic is in one direction in all lanes of this road and is determined by direction marks, and returning back is prohibited. Roads with one lane and two directions. They are either separated by a central island or longitudinal continuous lines, where overtaking is absolutely prohibited. There are also roads separated by dashed longitudinal lines, and overtaking is allowed at specific areas. Roads with two lanes or more in two directions. Directions are separated by a central island, or determined by continuous longitudinal lines. Here vehicles are prohibited to cross or move on the lines, and in this case it is prohibited to move from a direction to another. Lane lines, however, are determined by dashed longitudinal lines, allowing vehicles to move from a lane to another. Main lanes. Right lane and its uses. When driving slow or low speed. If the driver wants to move to another road at his right. In the case of meeting another vehicle coming from the opposite direction. If he wants to stop and exit to stopping lane or out of carriageway. When a driver of a vehicle coming from behind wants to overtake his vehicle. In the case of approaching turns, or from high tops, when visibility in the road is insufficient. When driving heavy vehicles. Middle lane and its uses. When driving with a speed less than the speed limit allowed on the road. In the case of driving in a straight lane. Left lane and its uses. When driving with the speed limit allowed on the road. In the case of overtaking. In the case of turning left. Sublanes. Accelerating lane. It is a side lane in which vehicles coming from a sub-road can accelerate before merging and entering in the main road, so that their speed becomes equal to the speed of vehicles that exist on the main road. De-accelerating lane. It is a side lane used by vehicles that leave the main road and want to enter a sub-road to reduce their speed until it's suitable for entering the sub-road. storage lane. It is an additional lane in the road allocated for vehicles that want to turn and return back to the opposite direction for their stop and wait for a safe and suitable time to turn and return without becoming an obstacle to the coming traffic or cause a traffic accident. Ascending lane. It is an additional lane in the road that is allocated for trucks that move slowly during ascending to give way to the vehicles behind to overtake it. Bicycle lane. It is an additional lane in the road allocated for bicycles and pedestrians. Public transportation lane. It is a lane in the road allocated for public transportation. Stopping or emergency lane. It is allocated for the stopping of vehicles if they are faulty and can be used by emergency vehicles during accidents. Please note, a driver should remain on the lane that he is already driving on and should only opt to change lanes when he is quite confident that his action will not cause an accident or affect traffic. Lane changing. The main aims of changing a lane to another. Turn right or left. Overtaking. Increase or decrease in speed. A driver who is using a one-direction main road with multiple lanes should only park his vehicle in the specified spaces. A driver should also not reverse or turn around. That can only be done in specified places. Rules of lane using and changing. Any vehicle driver who wants to exit a lane full of vehicles should do the following. Inspect the blind spot by turning his head. Look at the mirrors and make sure he can do so without subjecting himself or others to risk. To take into consideration the positions of other road drivers, their direction and speed. To declare his intention clearly at a sufficient distance by using direction signals in his vehicles and hand signals when necessary. The warning signals from his vehicle should remain on throughout the duration of motion and only turned off after a lane change. To carefully approach the edge of the carriageway. If he will move to another road at his right, and approach as possible to the axis of the carriageway. If he will move to another road at his left, gradually, with caution during lane changing. Not to use more than one lane at the same time, except in the above-mentioned cases. Mandatory cases for drive moves near the right edge of carriageway. Moving to another road at his right. Meeting another vehicle coming from the opposite direction. Overtaking your vehicle by a driver of a vehicle coming from behind. Insufficient and poor visibility on the road. Drivers of passenger vehicles, buses of different types, transportation cars, trucks, motor vehicles and equipment tractors, and any motor vehicle trailing a trailer or semi-trailer have to move at the right side of the road and not to overtake other vehicles. Lane using. If a carriageway is divided into two lanes, bordered by continuous long lines, a vehicle driver is prohibited to cross or move on it. If a carriageway has two directions, divided into three lanes, a vehicle driver is allowed to use the middle lane, after making sure that this will not constitute a risk to others or traffic. In all cases, it is not allowed to use the traffic lane at the edge of the opposite direction of the lane that the driver is occupying. It is also not allowed for a driver to change his lane except after making sure that this does not constitute a risk to other drivers or traffic. General guidelines and ethics on dealing with lanes. If two vehicles met from two opposite directions on a road, with insufficient width to accommodate their passing at the same time, the two drivers have to reduce their speed and move with their vehicles to the right edge of a carriageway as much as possible, or exceed the edge of the carriageway if necessary. It is not allowed for any vehicle to occupy more than half of the carriageway in case of facing another vehicle. If two vehicles met in a carriageway of an insufficient width because of the existence of an obstacle on the road, the driver of that vehicle moves on the lane that contains the obstacle. He has to give way to the opposing vehicle, even if the driver of the first vehicle was forced to stop. Safety distance. Safety distance between vehicles. It is the distance that must be kept by the driver between his vehicle and the vehicle moving in front of him, to avoid the occurrence of a traffic accident because of a sudden stop, where the accelerating vehicle needs a longer distance to stop completely and gradually, which may increase or decrease according to the vehicle's speed. Accident statistics indicate that most of the traffic accidents are as a result of the lack of a sufficient safety distance between vehicles, where most drivers are accelerating and do not keep a sufficient safety distance between their vehicles and the vehicles that are moving in front of them. A safety distance enables a driver to sudden stop with the occurrence of any emergency circumstance on the road without collision. Risk of failure to keep a safety distance near tailgating. In the case of a sudden stop of the vehicle moving in front of you without any clear reason, you have to react quickly by stopping your vehicle in order to avoid a certain accident. And at the time, you will find that your vehicle did not stop before it collides with the vehicle in front of you. In this case, you will be the instigator of the accident because you failed to keep a sufficient safety distance between your vehicle and the vehicle that is moving in front of you. The safety distance between two vehicles that are traveling on the road is always governed by the following traffic-related factors. Driving circumstances. Road surface condition. Motor vehicle and tires condition. Speed. A driver's psychological and health condition. Weather condition. The safety distance is estimated by one of the following methods. Counting method, 2 seconds. It is as follows. If the vehicle in front of you passes a fixed object, start counting. Start counting slowly. 1,100 and then 1,200. If the nose of your vehicle reached to the edge of the fixed object before completing counting, the time is then less than 2 seconds. That means you are very near from the vehicle moving in front of you, and you have to increase the safety distance. Note that big vehicles need a greater safety distance, estimated by 3 seconds, which is calculated by the same method. Speedometer half-reading method. Through this method, a distance of half a meter per kilometer per hour of the vehicle speed will be kept. Example: when the vehicle speed is 100 kilometers per hour, a safety distance between your vehicle and the vehicle in front of you is no less than 50 meters. Why do we need this time and distance to stop? When we see a danger, the eye sends its picture to the brain, which in turn sends an order to the right foot to press on the brake. In the meantime, the vehicle is still moving. This distance is called thinking distance. And when pressing on the brake, the vehicle starts to decelerate until it completely stops. And this distance is called braking distance. Definitions: waiting, parking. It is the parking of the vehicle in a place for a finite or infinite time period. Stopping. Stopping the vehicle for a time period necessary for moving, getting on or off, picking up passengers, loading or unloading goods. Pedestrians crossing. It is a place allocated for pedestrians crossing, marked for this purpose. A driver should stop before it. Handicaps parking. It is a place allocated for parking handicaps vehicles, which is indicated by signs and road surface markings. Road shoulder. It is part of the road in line with it from the two sides prepared for emergency stops. Parking signs and markings. Traffic signals, signs. No parking sign. The no parking sign is a circular sign with a red frame and blue background, with a red diagonal. No stop and no waiting sign. It is a circular sign with a red frame and blue background with two crossed red diagonals. Parking directional sign. It is a rectangular sign with a blue background. Written inside it is the letter P in white. It guides the driver to a parking spot. Handicaps parking sign. It is a rectangular sign with a blue background. It contains a white square. Drawn inside is a handicaps logo in black color. It is intended to guide road drivers to parking places of handicaps. Bus parking sign. It is a rectangular sign with a blue background that contains a white square. Drawn inside it is a picture of a bus or train in black color. This sign guides drivers to parking places of buses or trains. Vehicle parking marks. Parallel parking mark. This mark means that a vehicle driver who wants to park in this parking place should park their vehicle in a parallel way. Perpendicular parking mark. This mark means that a vehicle driver who wants to park in this parking place should park their vehicle in a perpendicular way. Angled parking mark. This mark means that a vehicle driver who wants to park in this parking place should park their vehicle in an angled way. Handicaps parking mark. This mark is used to guide the driver to designated handicaps parking places, and it is not allowed for other drivers to park in these parking places. Attention! Parking is always in parallel, except if there's a possibility to park your vehicle in an angled or perpendicular manner, according to traffic regulations, traffic signs, and marks, such as road surface markings. No parking on yellow lines mark. A driver must never park on these lines, the yellow square, because this leads to obstructing traffic.